Well, welcome everybody to On the Couch with Woody for another episode. I've got the pleasure of introducing Australian musician royalty, to be honest. I've done some research on Martin over the last couple of days and got a few questions to ask him, but we're here to learn about his life and his story, what his past is and where he's been. So Martin, welcome. Martin Cilia.
Thank you, Woody.
Welcome to to On the Couch with Woody. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
Mate, lovely. So let's go back. We always start the interviews with these to go back to your first memory of music and how music started in your world to become what you've lived over. I've read in the pages of the information on the internet on you, a life in the arts and a life as a musician. So
yes.
Where did it begin, mate?
Okay, I was born in England and my father was a radio TV technician, one of the early ones back in the day, and he used to have a tape recorder, a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and he would record stuff off the TV, like Clifford and the Shadows, or the Shadows, the Beatles, and that sort of stuff. And he used to play the Shadows music all the time, instrumental guitar music, and I really got into that and really liked it. So I grew up with that. And then we immigrated to Western Australia when I was 9 years old, and my dad had an apprentice who was in a band. I think everyone was in a band in the late 60s. And one day he came around with an old acoustic guitar and showed me two chords. And I just played those two chords over and over until I found a third one. You know, it's an old story. There's no internet then, there's no information. So you hear about a guy up the road who might know a third chord. So you go and knock on the door. Hello, is Bill home? And, you play guitar? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, and that's how we did it. Slow, slow, slow. And then I discovered that I could figure songs out from the record. So I started learning some of these instrumental songs by getting the record. I could pick out bits. I couldn't necessarily do the whole thing in one go, but I could pick out bits and slowly I pieced it together.
So what age is that? How old are you then?
Probably about 11.
So 11. And you'd never really got any formal lessons? It was all just...
I wouldn't sort of learn after that.
Okay.
In my 20s, I decided... Mid-20s, I decided, well, if I want to do this as a profession, I was playing in bands, original bands, cover bands, just doing it all. And I thought, well, I could see people around me starting to fall away. As you get older, I was always the last man standing in the bands, always. You know, like everyone would just go and get married or have kids or go off and work on the mines or whatever it was. And so I thought I'd better learn some stuff. So I started trying to learn some jazz, learning how to... Jazz songs were put together, so I started learning a whole lot of standards. And I did that. So every day I would get up and try and learn a new just a jazz standard or something like that. And then gradually, because I figured it was all about rhythm and melody. So the jazz standards, like All of Me and all those songs, had great melodies. So I started working that out, and I learnt the fingerboard properly. Because I could always play okay. One thing I noticed about my history was whenever I played, I always sounded okay. The sound was always okay. So people should like, oh, you sound good. They didn't say you play good or whatever. Oh, you sound really good, you know.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so when I play a guitar, it seems to sound okay. So I worked that out, and I thought, well, now how do I develop that? So you've got to put the work in.
100%. Practice, as the pros say.
I wish I did more, but I never practice, because once I learned a few songs, by the time I was 12, I was in a band.
Right.
So I just used to learn songs with the band. So we'd say, we're going to learn this. A lot of Creed songs and Beatles songs, Stone songs. So I try and just learn those songs when we go to rehearsal and play them. So I learned to playing in a band.
That's great, because I know when I teach, some kids really resonate to learning from a book and written music, chord charts and things like that. But there's a lot of kids that are like me, like it sounds like yourself. Like I was just telling you about seeing the Goo Goo Dolls on the weekend.
Yeah.
My first song I learnt was Slide by the Goo Goo Dolls with the stereo. On a tape player, playing it back and working it out with my ear.
Eventually things click, you know?
One, that's not the note, but that's the note. Which I think is a very important way, and I think that probably at least proves to you and myself that at least you've got the musical DNA, which is important.
It gives you a start,
Gives you a start. So when you say that as well, I read up on you and I noticed that you pretty much state your professional career as a musician, and I always say the first day you get a paid gig, that's when you become a professional musician. You were 14, weren't you?
I think I was maybe 12 or 13. 13 maybe.
And were you working in a club or what?
Yeah, first paid gig I got was at a local, in Western Australia, it was in a suburb called Morley. We had a community hall. I played a 50-50 social.
Right.
You know, which I thought 50-50 was like 50% rock songs, 50% old songs. It's not, it's 50-50 dancing.
Okay,
so you got to play barn dances and all that sort of stuff. So I was a bit surprised there. But yeah, so we used to do like you do a song like When I'm 64,
Yep.
a Beatles song, but you play it as a barn dance.
Right.
That's how I learned.
Wow, that's insane.
You know, so we just took pop sort of songs that we knew.
You knew, yeah, and just put a spin on
You
it.
put a spin on it, and yeah. So that was my first pay gig. I think it was like $12 or something, you know, or $15 each or something like that.
Wow, and that was back in the late '60s, was it? Or
No, that'd be early 70s.
Early '70s.
Yeah.
So I also read. So I like to ask this question as well. When was the formidable moment where you had that light bulb moment? For me, it was probably when I picked up an acoustic guitar because I played drums and sung BVs and even a bit of lead on the drums. But when I picked up an acoustic guitar and started writing songs, that was when I sort of went, shunk. Okay, forget about soccer now. It's going to be about music.
Well, I did soccer as well. My dad was a soccer coach.
Well, you're Italian background, isn't it?
Maltese.
Maltese.
My father's Maltese, my mum's English. So I was born in England, but yeah.
I know a lot of good Maltese musicians. One of my favourite musicians. Shout out to Matty Sly, last name Sly.
Okay,
and Maltese. And he always tells me the stories about the most bombed area in the war. And,
we have heard all those.
But when was that moment? Can you define that moment when you go, you know what? I'm decent at this. I'm going to make a go at this. And was there a gig, or was it just a progressive thing?
It was progressive. I never thought about having any other job.
Right.
I just remember I couldn't wait to be able to leave school. The day I turned 16, I left school. So I was doing 3 or 4 gigs a week.
At that age, yeah.
I remember when I was at school, my last year of high school, every Wednesday night, I was playing in a strip club. Well, yeah, strip club, anyway. And my mum and dad would take me, you know, or the older guys in the band, you know. And I've told
what are you doing? Like, oh my
the funny
God,
thing is,
I can't look.
When I was touring with Mental Health and anything, we actually went back to this venue, like, you know, 40 years later.
Gave them the story.
And on stage, I told the story. So this is where Katrina, the stripper, used to come out, and I told the story. I was 14. So my thing was, I get to school the next day, and I'd be going, oh yeah, you know, I finally got jumping jack flashlight. You know, I did this, or whatever it was, you know. And the kids wouldn't want to know about that. They want to know about, the stripper.
Where did she come?
Who was on last night? Even the girls would ask, I don't know, like,
I was gigging, I was concentrating.
And the strippers used to always talk, because I was a young one, would always talk to me and take me under their wing, you know, like in a motherly sort of way, so I was always friendly with them. But yeah, and I got to school and the kids would only ask about the strippers and not the music or the band or
That's hilarious. Well, there you go. That's probably the first time we've had somebody on the couch who's told us that was the moment they wanted to become a professional musician.
It all ties in, doesn't it?
It does tie in.
I didn't want to become a stripper, so...
You know, that's right. Yeah. You didn't have the legs for that.
No, I might have.
Might have. All right.
And soccer legs.
Yeah, soccer legs. So that's great, because you've got that sort of early lineage and that kind of being around other musicians, learning from them type thing and asking questions all the time.
And most of the guys, they're always older than me. And they were really old, like 21, 22.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, at the time, and they all drove. And I actually bought a car before I could drive, I had to legally have a license, and I used to get people to drive me to gigs.
Right.
So I had the car. So I bought that. So I had gigging.
You can drive my car.
Yeah, take me to the gigs. So I actually...
It's a song in that. Baby, you can drive my car.
Never worked.
Never worked.
So I actually bought a car maybe 6 months before I was legally allowed to drive.
Right.
But I couldn't drive it on the road.
Yeah.
Without someone with me in L plates, but I never rocking up the gig with L plates. That's not very cool, you know. So I get someone to drive me to the gigs and home.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, so I had enough money to buy a car then.
Fantastic.
You know.
So let's fast forward to a few years later. I read that you skipped over to the pond again. You moved overseas, didn't you, when you were in your 20s? Was that right?
No,
Back to London?
I was 20. I went to
20.
I lived in London for a year.
Yep.
2021. I had my 21st there, which was, you know, but it was.
And that was with an original band?
Yeah, I was doing an original band there.
What's the name of it?
Urban Clearway
was
there you go. The one I was doing, and we got some songs and we some experiences, but you know you can't make a living. So I'm living in this bedsit in East London, you know, literally like that room in the Blues Brothers where the trains go by.
Yeah.
It was like that. The trains were just like there, and that would happen.
Broke as eating nothing.
Yeah, toast. You know, like baked beans. On Friday, I'll go down to the local fish shop and get a piece of fish or something. But basically, it was pretty basic stuff. But I thought it was still exciting because London was still exciting then.
100%.
It was still exciting. I get on the train, I go into the town, you know, and up Soho and stuff, look around, and you see Rod Stewart buying a pair of shoes in the shop, you know, in Oxford Street or something. But so it's exciting.
Yeah,
When I grew up in Perth, we didn't have that.
That's right, yeah.
You know.
It's funny, Northern Hemisphere is where it all happens, isn't it? For a lot of music.
Well,
and
LA,
they venture
yeah.
here eventually, and they come and tour here or whatever. But if you want to try and take it on, it's maybe a bit different now with the internet. I think that's shrunk the world a lot, made it more accessible for us to reach our audience. But I guess
Yes.
back in those days, there's no way of reaching an audience if you lived in Australia. If you were in suburban Perth,
You had to be there.
you had to be there.
Yeah, no, there's no one that I knew from Western Australia that made it without leaving Perth or leaving the state.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, I in Perth, I sort of, I wasn't really up the tree. I was about halfway up the ladder in bands. I wasn't at the top or whatever. Anyway, so that was good learning experience because the English, playing original music in London was, you learn by just being around, demo studios or whatever we were doing. But it was not a full-time job,
Right.
even though it was full-time. It wasn't.
So on that, when you talk about jobs, I mean, I've had different day gigs over the years, and I call my music school a day gig, but it's a pleasure to teach music, and I love it just as much as performing. I'm not surrounded by people who aren't like-minded. Did you have a day gig? Did you ever go, you know what, I've got to cut some teeth, I've got to get some money in the bank, or have you always been able to sustain yourself as a
Something
musician?
always happens.
Something's always
Something
happened.
always happens, and that's my theory. It's getting harder because as you get older and the economy is changing, but something always happens. Like the last band I was in, Mental as Anything, Greedy Smith, the main singer of the band, passed away, and so literally, like one phone call, no notice, my next year's income was zero, nothing. I didn't panic. I just waited, and I wasn't looking. I was just sort of enjoyed the peace and quiet, time away, and then I got a phone call, maybe 6 months later or something. Do you want to come play on the Radiators? So that was
That's your
kind of
gig now.
Yeah, so that's my day job, if you like. So
And that's the way your life has sort of unfolded over the years, like where you've had something where you think, oh no, this is what's going to go on here, and then the next lily pad's submerged and you've jumped onto that.
mostly, yeah. You just got to be have the right attitude, I think. The Rads I knew from being on the road. We just hang out.
Come across each other.
So we sort of knew each other.
And knew each other sort of.
Yeah, so I knew the guys, good guys, and I thought, oh yeah, and I used to watch their set and stuff, and then that opportunity came up, and I thought, yeah, that's what I need, a good rock band.
Yeah, awesome. So let's focus on your actual instrumentation. So you're a guitarist first. Do you play any other instruments?
Not as well. Guitar's the main thing. I mean, I can do a little bit of keyboards, and bass guitar. It just goes with guitar.
Yeah.
But no, not a drummer or whatever. But I can write the parts out. So I taught myself how to write arrangements.
Right.
So I could write, which is what I did when I was
Your
mid-20s.
jazz sort of days?
Well,
like-
yeah, I actually wrote a couple of arrangements for big bands.
Okay.
This is before computers. You had to write it out, do everything, and then you put the charts up and they play it. So
they're
that's the first time you hear it.
reading your map.
Yeah, so I wrote a couple of original pieces, and then I did I think I did a couple of Duke Ellington songs. I just learned what the voicings were,
Yep.
and I could just
And you did that for all the instruments.
I think it
That's-
was probably about 25 piece band.
That's
Drum
insane.
parts,
And what,
keyboard parts,
did they
everything.
like? Did they happy with it when you?
Yeah,
that's it. We can read it.
But the thing is, that's the first time you hear it.
Yeah.
And I did it I had a keyboard. I got a little electric keyboard, a rolling keyboard, and I just did the notes like that, and I just,
Okay, this is what it is.
that's what it is. And open voicings, closed voicings. So I learnt all that. Plus, I've always written songs. Even when I was 12, I think the first band I had, I walked in with a riff. It was just basically a blues thing. But
Yeah.
I've always just made stuff up.
Made stuff up.
Yeah.
So you've always tapped into that, which some musicians don't have that gift of creation. Some musicians are very good at parodying and creating, and there might be the most amazing piano player you've ever heard or guitarist, but then you say, let's put something out together. That's another part of the brain, isn't it, that you have to tap
I think
into?
so. I can do that, but I have to work really hard at it. I'm not a good copier, imitator.
Right.
I don't think.
No, so you've found your own footprint, and you made that sound good, as you said. The chords were coming out clean from the early days.
Yeah,
and then
pretty well, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is now,
And listening, I think, to just a vast array of music, you're picking up that subconsciously as well.
well, also when I hear recordings now, I can hear what they're playing.
Yep.
So I can probably copy now even more accurate than
Yep.
Before I just, oh, that's what they're doing there, or they got that string tuned down, oh, they got a wound G string there, I can hear that. Things like that, you know.
Yep.
That's what I could pick up when I was young. I was learning these Shadow songs, and I didn't know about the wound G string.
Right.
But I think, no, they're not playing, they're playing it up here because it's got that sound. So I used to find up the neck.
Find it in another place.
Yeah, but I didn't realise until later, oh, that's why I was doing it, because trying to match up that's the sound he's getting.
Yeah, right, there you go. So let's touch on, I've counted, I don't know if I'm right, but you've had 10 commercial releases, is that right? You've had an EP
right.
and about 7 or 8, 9 albums.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So that music over the time, I do a country show.
Yes.
And I know your music's probably not per se hardline country, but I want to broaden my scope to Australian artists.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be the Aussie country show plus Aussie artists. You being an Aussie artist, very, very much so. Was there any time you went into that world, into that Tamworth world and those Tamworth bands?
Yeah.
Like who did you play with? Who? Because our listeners know the country acts. Is there any one that you can say?
Trying to think, yeah, I did a lot of country stuff at one stage, especially early 90s.
Yeah.
I joined this band called Left Sue.
Yeah.
With had a couple of 3 girl singers and the band was really good players, and I did that for a year or two until I don't know why it fizzled out, and I got into the bluegrass scene for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Acoustic bluegrass, and
wow.
I think I got an award at the bluegrass competition there, playing in a flat picking.
Right.
So a friend of mine, a guy I knew from Perth, he was over here working in the scene, and he was going to the fiddle comp. He says, "Can you back me up?" So I backed him up on the cue, playing the backup, and then I knew 2 bluegrass songs that I learned, and he put my name down on the thing.
Played them.
And I played the 2 songs, and I won a prize.
That's unreal.
It's time for me to play anything else.
No, that's right. I always love that story of Tommy Emmanuel, and one of the first times he was in the studio and they had the music up in front of him and it was all charted. And he goes, just play the track. And they go, the producer's going, he's reading that. Look, he's reading that. He's not reading that. He doesn't read a note.
Yeah.
He's listening. And he goes, just press record. And then
well, you recognise stuff after a while.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So let's have a talk about, just quickly before we touch on this new album, let's just have a quick talk about like your family life. Like was there mum and dad, brothers and sisters? What was the dynamic in your family?
Well, it was myself, my sister, and my mum and dad. Basically 4 of us.
4 of you, yeah.
My dad, neither my dad or mum played music, but they're very musical in that, like, if a song came on the radio, my mum would pick who the singer is most of the time.
Yeah, right, yeah.
She just knows.
Had an ear, yep.
She just recognised.
New artists, yeah.
Yeah, she knew who everyone was. And my dad had a really good ear for sound. I know that if he was around today, I think he'd be quite proud. The last time I think he saw me play I was in a band called the Atlantics for a long time.
That was going to, you've led me into that, yeah.
And we toured, I think it was Beach Boys or maybe on the Chris Isaac tour. We were in Perth and he came down. And, playing a big auditorium or whatever. And I think that most times I went back to Perth after I moved away from there, I was going back playing with big gigs.
Yeah.
Like, which was good. And that's what I wanted to do. So if I lived in Perth, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
But distance breeds credibility. So
yeah.
Coming from Sydney in a band, playing there. But my dad would be the first person, if I had a bad sound, he would tell me.
Right.
In a nice way.
Yeah, but he said, that it wasn't on there.
No, he'd say, you sound... In Maltese, TH is hard for them to say. They don't have TH in there. So he'd say, you sound... Instead of saying thinny, he'd say tinny. You sound tinny.
All right. Same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, same thing. So you sound tinny.
Yeah.
If that happened, because he likes the full sound.
Yeah. That's great. So, cool. So when you, with the Atlantics, I did read some kind of it's a story about like it was a big band of the Eagles or somebody of that stature, like a really big band, that you had one time there was an opportunity that opened up for a big touring act, but you didn't take it all. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
I'm trying to think. There was might have been just somebody online making something up.
We did do a few things. I mean, we did the Beach Boys thing.
So you did the real Beach Boys, the tour with them?
Yeah, that was interesting.
That would have been great.
It was just like very segmented. You expect everyone to be mates and all that, but it's not. It's just like
you are there, they're here.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of. A couple of guys in the band were friendly to us, but yeah, the main guys in the Beach Boys were kind of they didn't really seem to have the passion.
Right, yeah.
For want of a better word.
It was a paycheck for them.
Yeah, but they still sounded great.
Right, yeah.
But it was like, it didn't have like I expected a bit more, you know.
A bit more heart and soul,
Yeah.
I think it's like, it's just the individual, I think, that as well. Because, I mean, like, I said I did the Keith Urban show.
Yeah.
And I've never met him, but from all accounts, everyone who meets him and people are like, no, he's a great guy.
Oh, he's genuine.
And he's genuine.
I think.
He's warm. And I think he would be like that on tour as well. You're not going to be sitting in the hotel room with him, but you're like, at least you're going to, when you cross each other's paths in the backstage.
Some people are really friendly. I think he'd be fine. Some people aren't, you know, you meet them and you can't even talk to them.
It's
really odd.
It is odd, yeah.
You know,
especially if you're like our personality, which are probably a bit more extroverted than some people.
I always treat everyone equal.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter who they are.
Doesn't matter who they are. That's right.
You know,
that's good advice.
I think the Atlantics, the biggest tour we did in Australia was the Long Way to the Top tour.
With AC/DC?
No.
The
Billy Thorpe.
Of course.
That was 3 months on the road, and it was just a pleasure to watch all the other bands every night.
Yeah.
It was just like every night you can watch Masters and Apprentices.
Yeah.
You know, Chain. It was just Spectrum. You know, like all these bands every night. Like, how good was that?
That is unreal. Yeah. And that was going for quite a while, wasn't it?
I think we were out on the road 3 months.
Yeah.
That's got to be a number of years ago now.
Yeah.
22 years ago.
Well, let's look at your latest work, which is I've got this in my hot little hand. I thought I'd just do this. That's my first album.
Oh, excellent.
My next album is coming out soon. Matty Favell who does all of our interviewing and some Speedy Tech Media. He plays on a few of those songs.
Perfect.
And I've got Sam Vincent. You probably know Sammy Vincent from plays with Sammy Vincent. His latest band was with John Stevens.
Okay.
So he's an Italian guy, probably the most gifted lead guitarist I've ever heard play guitar. Just sitting there like crazy. It was insane how like intuitive he was, because I play well, but I'm sitting there going like playing some things and he's just zoning in on my brain and playing. That's what I want, man. So,
that's good, isn't it? That's
so it's probably a bit too much guitar on that album. You can never have too much guitar.
No.
But I have had musicians go, man, geez, the guitar, he's good on that. I said, yeah, we don't do all of it live.
Yeah.
we do take this.
That's great.
But yeah, that's all my own songs. So I've written every one of those songs.
Brilliant.
And that's probably what I'm known mostly as a songwriter, first and foremost. I've used instruments to express myself of what I want the song to be. So that's how I've sort of approached musicianship. And I love working with great pros as well. I think there's nothing better than being in a band and with people that can do stuff you can't do. And you're sitting there and going, wow, man, that's just like...
That's how you make a band. If everyone was doing the same thing, it wouldn't work.
No,
You know?
So let's talk about you. I'm going to show this. It's Dawn of the Surf Guitar, which I'm very intrigued, because I spent a night with... It wasn't Cliff Richards and the Shadows. It was Cliff Richards and the Shadows tribute band at St George Motorboat Club way back when I was about 9 years of age. And they were all dressed in their little. They did the dance moves and it was ding 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 ding. You know, that single melody sort of. Is this what we're going to sort of expect? Is this
is more American sounding.
More American.
Yeah, more like Dick Dale influenced and that sort of thing. More Californian.
More California.
Yep.
And you've got 12 songs on there. Are they covers or they're your own?
No, all my own.
They're all your own songs. And it's all instrumental?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
I'm not a singer, so yeah.
This is going to be great. I'm going to...
So yeah, I've done, I probably released, well, every song I released as a solo artist is instrumental.
There's always been instrumentals. That's good to know.
So, so I've probably got a few hundred songs out there. I wrote most of the Atlantic stuff as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, fantastic. So what's on the horizon for you, mate? You're touring with the Radios. For those who don't know, the Rads are right up there. They're Australian rock royalty. They were known as the hardest working band back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, or probably the 80s period. I reckon them and AC/DC would have been fighting for the attention. But I know they did the most gigs one year. They were on record. They had the most gigs done by anyone. They must have done 2 or 3 shows a day sometimes.
I think it was like that.
It was, yeah. So the Rads gig, that's a cool thing to have. Because all of the Aussie fans, and I've got a lot of fans who come to my Cronulla gigs that love the Rads. So, mate, you got the gig.
The Radiators got apart from being great people, they've got a great repertoire of songs. They've got a great history, really hard-working band. You know, every gig is just like,
we're in.
It's like, you know, It's a real gang. It's really, which I love. It's just like being in a band. You're in a band, you know.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You're
They
all in
stick
it.
together.
Yeah, it's really good, and they've got their fans, as our manager says. Their fans are rusted on.
They're rusted on. I love that.
That's what
great.
our Grand Our manager
That
says.
should be the title of their greatest hits album, Rusted On.
Rusted on. You know, there was a loyal fans.
That's
you know,
fantastic.
and yeah.
Well, that's good, and that's rare for the rock. I know that in the country scene, we take it for granted sometimes how loyal the country fans are, because they'll fight to tooth and leather. Listen to some country, you know. They love the genre. They're known for it, and that's good to hear, especially in this day and age where music, I think, sometimes can be so flippant. I mean, I would not be able to tell you in the last 5 years the top 3 or 4 artists. I mean, except for Taylor Swift,
The obvious,
of course.
yeah.
But you know what I mean? They come and go so quickly.
Yeah.
It's consumed so quickly these days. That's good to hear, mate. And mate, I'm going to try and, if you come out to the Shire, I'm sure you'll be doing a Shire gig soon.
we will be, yes.
Yeah,
I know
I'll definitely come along if I've got the night
coming
off.
up.
Yeah, fantastic. And how can they reach out to you? Are all the people out there in the world that are looking for Martin Cilia, especially the ones who love instrumental music, because that's what he does with his original music. This is the latest album. Where do they go, mate? You got a website?
Martincilia.com.
You got Instagram and Facebook and that sort of stuff?
Yeah,
or?
Instagram, Facebook, and it's on all mediums. You know, iTunes, Apple.
Yep.
So the songs
So
are
they can
everywhere.
reach you there.
But yeah, my website is probably the best spot.
Website, okay. Mate, well, thank you for spending some time with Woody on the couch.
Thank you.
And all the best for the last, the rest of this year.
Yeah.
And into the future, mate. I can't
Thank
wait
you very
to
much.
see you play live one day.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, man.
Get your boots on.
In a world driven by visuals, every frame tells a story. Every moment captures emotion. At Speedy Tech Media, we breathe life into your vision. Our dedicated team of experts craft unforgettable experiences. We don't just shoot videos, we create memories that last a lifetime. Join us in making your dreams a reality. Elevate your brand with Speedy Tech Media. Contact us today. Let's tell your story together.